And we are live now, folks. So, hey, folks, this is me, Vishwas Nayan. I'm the host of this DevOps chat show because a lot of times when KQL comes in as a picture, the moment we start thinking, okay, this is what we need in any of the security practices, there was a language defined. And I saw there is a huge impact that a Defender ecosystem has on the way we think security. And in terms of an ecosystem perspective, in terms of a community perspective, there's a lot that goes behind when we think about Defender and its impact in the security practices. Today, I'm with Samik Rai, and he's going to give you an not just an example, but he's also going to give you a kind of an insight which will help you get started with security with low code and a no code approach, as well as you will start learning something beyond what is in potential of some software which is getting used right now. So thank you so much, Samik sir, for being on the show. Means a lot.
Thanks for inviting and thanks for hosting me, Vishwas. It's really great to have and talking here. Yeah,
Sure. Sure. Let's start with this journey of what is an Defender ecosystem and how is it making an impact, because a Defender ecosystem is well known for the attacks that is getting prevented, and also the malware is getting installed and everything as an alarm. So what is a Defender ecosystem and how is it making an impact today?
really, that's a great question to start with, basically. So, the way I would say it's like if we don't attach any technology to Defender, right? So Defender, if we think it from a conceptual perspective on a bigger organization, right? So Defender might be a group of people or maybe multiple groups sitting around different corners of the organization. They collaborate to each other so tightly that even attack happens or something goes wrong in any of the any events or any corner in the organization, that kind of follow through the entire org Defender teams, and they kind of block it. And then it is not about blocking. They also make sure that what was the reason. Was it the hygiene which caused it? Was it something new which is not in their shield system? Kind of, I know they have to install, they have to add on. So these kind of things is analyzed, and then there's a remediation built to make sure that the similar kind of attacks or similar kind of incident doesn't happen in the future. So that's something, I would say, and that really makes a significant contribution to the growth of the organization and the sustenance of the organization, because we might not see the wall and the perimeter outside, but attackers can see very well, right? So defenders are the group or the people who make sure that the shield is strong enough so that outsider or even any insider, right, cannot penetrate and hamper people work, right? So that was kind of, I'd say, how do we define defender? And if we look at the landscape today, so what happens in there is, recently after COVID, right? So everything is either all remote or a hybrid. So there's no notion of full office anymore, right? It's all hybrid or all remote right now, or maybe hybrid and remote. So in this scenario, right, and we being in IT, so all the resources, when it's a resource, it's a computer, it's a servers. So everything is kind of scattered all over the place. Something is over internet, someone is connecting from maybe some country, someone is sitting inside firewall. So now it has become very, very difficult to draw a perimeter around that, right? So if you look at traditionally, what used to happen is, big companies or any company for that matter, they used to draw a perimeter, and every asset are inside the perimeter. So secure the perimeter, you are good. Nobody can come from outside or inside. Now there are with the evolving landscape, there are two different aspects. Even if there are employees joining, other people joining, right, remotely, even we don't know who they are and what's their background are. Yeah, definitely there are legal compliances in place, but bad thing it doesn't wait to happen. It just happened one fine day. So now with that landscape, the defender concept basically helps to protect you from inside out, right? So it doesn't only create a shield that outsider cannot penetrate, it also makes sure that what's inside, because we are all over internet right now. So there is the concept of inside out. Inside out is flipped, basically. Everybody is outside a fire or perimeter, so everybody have their own. And there are some cases it's like BYOD, bring your own device, right? So I mean, literally, you can bring a Mac, or you can have a VM, Linux VM inside a Windows machine, and you can literally crack down the data, and it's mostly not traceable, right? So now Now that has brought one thing into front is called endpoint security, and that's where the baseline of the defender start. So with the evolution of cloud, we had this defenders which was sitting in the software in your firewall or your SaaS product, right? And now it is also protecting the endpoint. So we call this, the solutions are called EDR solutions. We call endpoint detection and response, right? And being Microsoft, working in Microsoft technology for a long time, so all I see is like EDR is Defender, and Defender also have wings around all the SaaS application, all your cloud infrastructure, be it in Azure, be it in GCP, be it in AWS, anywhere, right? So that gives you full-time protection. And not only that, pivoting back to the concept of defender, right? So the integration has to be very, very tight. So let's say you receive something in mail, right? And you do a click on that link, and that basically downloads something to a machine, right? So if someone can somehow bypass the link in email security and send it over to you, and somehow with social engineering it can make you click the link, that's all done. And your traditional kind of security solution or SaaS, that ends there, that cannot go further, right? But with Defender in place, specifically Microsoft Defender 365, right? So what it does, it covers your endpoint, it covers your application, it covers your network, it covers your database, it covers your cloud, it covers your
Samik, I think we didn't hear you for a while. I think there's an internet issues. I think wait, there's an internet issue. Don't worry about it. So he's turned off. So yeah, I think even if you consider an defender as one of the ecosystem, you're muted actually. Samik, you're muted for past one something minute.
am I
You're available now. So you can continue from the time like 5 minutes ago, like 2 minutes ago.
oh, okay, so I think, yeah, so basically I think, if we look at again, the whole protection, right? And I have a plan to show you kind of how a real portal looks like. And then
Sure, sure.
it's not about the attack scenarios. Attack can happen from any time, and there are a lot of tools, there are a lot of penetration testing happens to make sure that you're protected from your vulnerable ends, right?
Mm.
But what happens if someone, because every day new vulnerability comes in, every day a new type of multiple new type of attacks are created or built. So when that happens, how quickly in kill chain you can capture it? And the only way you can capture it is because if you have all eyes in all the places, all over environment. And then that's been made possible by Defender. So yeah, so that was some sort of, I would say, introduction. Maybe it was a little longer than expected, but and that's how it is. So
Sure. In the context of Microsoft Defender suite, I think there is a huge centralization, decentralization as a concept coming up, but there is always an
right.
thought of process that always goes behind when once we think Defender as an ecosystem, where can we get the best resources to
R-
start learning about a system? So
so
where can we start learning about our system right now?
okay, so there are two aspects. Okay, so one thing is obviously, we are mostly working in organizations, and definitely that will have some sort of solutions in place in our machine. There are a lot of add-ons installed or a lot of buy machine, right? One thing is you just kind of look at event viewer logs. That's like the techie way, I would say. But recently with the Microsoft investment over documentation, there are a lot of sophisticated way to learn that. And one of the ways is they have really good documentation. And then there are offers where you can sign up for your trial, which is and you can actually simulate the attack and then test the data and things like that. So with that, what happens, you don't do anything in the real time environment. All you do is totally separate and totally sandboxed to your production environment. Now with that, you learn it, you are safe, because if you tamper anything, it doesn't go wrong, and it doesn't block your system like a ransomware, right? So that's kind of flexibility is there. And also in recent time, if we talk about Defender suite or any other things, right? Sentinel, entire security landscape, there is a lot of community movement, and you can see literally the code in GitHub, the details in GitHub, what exactly you are looking for. So first of all, I would say the documentation, and second thing is, I would say, kind of look at the community resources, and maybe end of our discussion today, I'll have a list where you can get started step by step. And also, it doesn't stop there, right? Even there are a lot of documentation over the internet. So now there's one thing, like, the connectivity, how you define your learning path, or how do you learn. So in recent time, there are learning paths, and then you get kind of acknowledgement of certification once you complete that. For example, Defender Ninja trainings. So there is a huge list of things, and that doesn't, and when you learn Defender, right, it also makes sure, or the learning path also makes sure that you know the basics what you need to know. For example, if you're looking at a ER solution or Defender for endpoint, right, you need to know what is registry, you need to know what is event viewer and things like that, right? So all those things, all those prerequisites are also covered in the path, right, with the cross referencing in the design of the content. Yeah. So that's one thing. And then you obviously do community, and the best thing is you also have trials to sign up for, and then you can try it out on. And again, as I said, it if it is coming as it is community driven, right? So what happens is, you being the user, right, you're not only the user, you are also expected to be a contributor there. How you can contribute is, even if you don't code, if you don't write some design things like that, you go through a documentation, and you feel the documentation can be made easy by removing steps, or there is some correction need to be done, or there is some addition need to be done, right? It's all open. So what happens is, it is broken in Microsoft Learn, and then GitHub. So it basically, the change you do, it makes a pull request on GitHub, and then Microsoft approves it if it sees like this is the right thing for documentation, and then yeah, you have your documentation. And also, you are a contributor to Microsoft documentation. That's the added bonus, right? So that's the way I would say, to start your learning. And obviously, if you are kind of looking at free resource, and if you have access to like courses like EDX, Udemy, or like Simple Learn and things like that, right, there are always paid courses and people available to help you out. That's it. So yep, that was.
Yeah, that's true because you still have an Udemy course which is free, and the link is here, my friends. You just can go and say learn KQL for Microsoft Sentinel, you will get it. So coming back to one of the best practices that I always see is you have to have a developer centric approach when you think security. I think the fundamental understanding of security that every developer needs has to be known. So are there any tips and tricks, or is anything like they need to know today in order to become a security centric approach that focus also on developers? So what is the fundamental understanding of security that is required from a developer today?
Okay, that's a really great question. So I'd like to add on something to your question itself, because me being a developer, when I kind of switched to security domain, right, it was really difficult to change my mindset of getting into deeper into things, right? In security, you need to do that, but not like a developer. So first thing, as a developer, we think that security always blocks us. For example, we write a code, it goes for code review, and then when it goes to production, it goes for auditing, and then they will give you 500 things to change, right? So those days are gone, things are changed right now. So with the new landscape, you don't need to worry about that, with the cloud concept. So developer can be open in their thinking how they can code it, because if you look at, it is not only the security aspect of it. So if you talk about the basic principle like scalability, accessibility, and all those things, right? So we if we take a cloud first approach, right, and security is bled into it. So how it works is, for example, you have to write a code which has to expose the API, things like that, right? So any cloud vendor, for that example, if I may take Microsoft or AWS or GCP, right, they have added a function which you can expose as a HTTP trigger. All you need to know is, if you're comfortable in C Sharp, if you're comfortable in PowerShell, if you're comfortable in Python, right, it is becoming, it is trying to get more and more into different languages where people can write their own languages, right? So you write your code, and that's all you need to know, right? So the memory leakage, like the traditional developer, right, you have to make sure that you dispose the object, you make sure the memory leak is not there. So all those aspects are already covered. And also, let's say if you are using, even if you talk about previous development experience, right, you are not supposed to use a string variable where it is an integer, because that's going to pile up some sort of extra memory. yeah, those things are there. Developer hygiene is still important, but all those scalability and the security element of it already is wrapped up when you're using a PaaS service, right? And with security, the thumb rule is security doesn't run on your code, it runs for your code. So you have to just change that mindset of understanding this. So it runs for your code to make sure that whatever code you've written, security will make sure that it works in a better way, right? So just to give an example, so if I write a a simple function to add two numbers, just
Are you
going by the
sharing your
basics.
screen? Like if you
Not
have
not
some
really.
photos, that would be better because
I will.
of the of
I will
365.
share it in a moment. So
Okay,
yeah, I'll come to that point and show you how it works. But fundamentally, right? So if I look at that, so let's say you write a code to add two functions. Now, whenever you're using a pass service, right? That pass service takes care of that. You maintain the hygiene, like that's already hosted on HTTPS, so the traffic goes always in the right channel, right? And if you have TLS settings, you can upgrade if you're using a storage account and things are like that. So security is already blend in, and Defender is day to day expanding. So even if you one thing is writing code and writing application, one thing is how even today, right? Defender is exposed to your GitHub, and then GitHub has an advanced security feature. So even before you write something, let's say accidentally you write a code or you write a secret in your part in your code, right? GitHub is able to stop you, or like isolate that kind of merge over there. And that's one point. And again, because things are in open source and we are in public internet, right? So there is no need to be scared at all. So let's say I'm using a NuGet package which is old, but me being a developer using sitting in front of computer is really difficult at times to make sure that my versions are always up to date, right? But there are tools, right? So that does it for you. That will show you, okay, change it. Even not only that, if you change it, what's going to impact, what kind of impact it's going to have. And at times, if it is like seen publicly over and over and time over and over again through multiple users, it also can tell you apply the fix. So it'll change the code as well. So if you talk about depender bots and GitHub and things like that, so that's a mix and feature in there, right? So that was like a traditional development approach. Now if you talk about low code, no code, and SaaS as a platform or PaaS as a platform, right? So Defender Suite has something like Defender for cloud apps, right? So even if you talk about Azure portal, right? What happens if you enroll that in Defender for cloud apps? So all your entire traffic goes through that MCAS, or cloud app broker security proxy. So that proxy makes sure that whatever a filter is coming, that is hitting their network first, their target URL first, right? And they capture the source and all the details, like even at the initial stage level, right? And then they relay the information to your actual code. So if something goes wrong, so even it stops it there itself. That's one thing. And because it is proxying, right, on your SaaS level, so it also gets a lot of telemetry and understand. So even if you try to proxy something, let's say apply MCAS on Dropbox, or maybe Box Connector, or maybe Salesforce, for example, right? So MCAS or Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps knows how many files are downloaded. If you do it on Office apps, it knows how many records are created, how many list items and files are deleted, things like that. So even the telemetry is also taken care. So it is not about defense in depth. It also makes sure that whatever is coming through, enough details is captured, right, to take action. Or at least if you cannot take action, it gives you a good picture why this happened and how you can solve it. So that quick it is, right? So that was one thing. And these are like what is built in. But as a developer, you should always focus on scalability and whatever the integrity of a data, because no security tool will understand what's your normalized data structure look like and how they are related to each other table. So that's something, it's still there, and it's going to be there, right? So obviously on that pace. And also the most prominent thing, if you look at Defender and Defender for identity, or identity protection and tools like that, even you don't need to work on the sign in authentication authorization piece. It's already taken care by Microsoft or any other cloud vendor you were using. You can just use the identity store to get your auth token, and they comply all the standards, right? You don't need to write the code to authenticate, like you don't convert the password to hash, do a hash match, or any other algorithm you apply to, right? All those things are out of your hassle right now. So with that, and because it is kind of built by a standard, right, standard cloud member, everybody uses this. So one thing is it's more secure because it is becoming a standard day by day. Second thing is because it is used by multiple people, right? If any one of the companies or any one of the developer flags it, so that fix is going to be horizontally applicable for all the people who are using it. You don't need to be like, looking for what if my code goes wrong. So you are already, and that's where the community concept comes in, right? Someone raises a bug, either community or the product owner fixes it, and then it releases a new version. When you just update the version, and with the SaaS, it's really easy to upgrade. You just do a couple of clicks, right? Make sure the dependencies are up to date, and that's how you upgrade it. So you are totally kind of up to date with the bugs and security things like that, right? So those are something I would say, kind of as a developer, I would kind of follow. Yeah.
Sure. I think there's a lot that goes behind when we talk about giving that accessibility to the developers, right? The whole price point about the talk that we do about security is all about enabling developers. That is what we from Devtron also does, and we also believe in that. So I wanted to know, like, how
Right.
can a dynamic ecosystem build security practices in a developers for the tomorrow's world? Like, what is a developers ecosystem going to look like when they try to adapt dynamic security ecosystem in their day-to-day work, day-to-day profile? So how is it going to make an impact for the tomorrow's world of
So
developers
I mean,
who
if you,
practice security?
yeah, that's another great one, really. I mean, and this concept is going to really change, and it's already started. So if you look at the developer community, right, and right now, if you look at 10 years back, we used to call developers, but today we call it developer community. And there's a reason for that, right? What happens, and lately there are a lot of concepts coming in, like, the citizen developer. So you don't continuously work for any of the company. You are just kind of a freelancer, but you connect from anywhere. You do your job, you do the business logic, you exactly right what the core business needs, right? And then that's your job done. So it becomes a lot more easier to for the company or the organization to kind of do their jobs or do their kind of make their work done faster pace. And as a developer also, you keep getting new exposures, new business thoughts and things like that, right? So today, if you look at, if you want to build your own product, right, people who are in product management, so it's not that difficult what it used to be 10 years back. Like, you have to have your servers, all the things are available. So with that, what happens is, and there's a lot of other influential factors over here which is coming into place. So for example, AI, and then the low code no code solution. So now, how do we as a developer keep up ourselves to the market, right? So that's where the community comes into place. So if you are a part of community, right, and that's more of a habit, like the way we're presenting, webinars and hosting webinars, right? And this has become your second nature, for example. So similar to that, that's where every developer has to come out of their own shell and then kind of be a part of the community. And when you say you're a part of community, it never it's mean that you're a part of a single community. It can be like you are spread across multiple community. You can just go and subscribe to anything and then read through it. And then community is like that's like an infinite scroll. That's how it goes, like I term it that way. Infinite scroll, just dive in there, see through, and then kind of observe for a week or so. That's good enough. And the good part is, people who are hosting communities and people who are building communities, right? So they are they have reached to a potential of knowledge that they are kind of interacting with thousands of people on a daily basis, right? So you don't know answer for a question, just post it there. Someone will definitely know that. So it's like the knowledge is combined, and that's like more valuable. So if you look at and then, I mean, as of today, it has become a lot easier to switch your language, like with trying language you code, switch your technology. The reason is community, because you don't need to start from scratch, and then you don't need to kind of, you have to have basics. That's important for every developer, even every person, basic should be clear, right? But apart from that, let's say you're coding something today in Angular, tomorrow you have to code something on React, right? So that switch, the transition period is reducing day by day, right? And with the influence of AI, it has, like, it has a lot become easier. So AI as of today, it's still not reached to its full potential, but if you look at 5 years, 10 years down the line, right, that will be like a built-in feature for every software aspect. You're right. So it's like you will like create classes of AI, you model this, model that, because if you look at today's world, right, there are a lot of models available. All I need to do is just deploy the model, run them on a compute engine, and then call them. You don't need to like reinvent things, right? So that's what I would say, how the developer journey had, been through, and then uh, how it's gonna be kind of evolving over time.
So yes, I think that's true. I think if you can just go through the M365 portal, I think that would be
Yep.
better to understand what is that Dynamics
Right.
ecosystem that we are talking about, and I can go through some elastic ones as well now.
Sure. Sure.
Uh,
So I would say I'll
you are
just share
sharing
my
your screen.
screen, and
Sure.
you see my. I think you should see my
Now,
screen now.
yes, I'm able to see your screen.
Wonderful.
We are not able
Go
to hear you. We are not able to hear you for a
can see you
while.
on mute.
Yeah.
So
So can you like just start over again? So that would be better. Or else you can just turn off your camera and you can go ahead. But I think there is a lag because of that. I think there is a technical issue with respect to an internet. I don't know why the StreamYard is so difficult these days, but you guys can start with it. All right. I think he has to turn off the camera. I can make the screen full. So that's fine. I think did you turn off your camera?
sorry for that. Okay.
So
So
we,
I would definitely, I think that would save some bandwidth. All
yeah,
right.
yeah, sure.
So is it
All right, we can't hear him now. We can't hear you. So don't worry about it, folks. So what we'll do is we'll just have separate video of it, and we'll just get back with some things out there, with shows you some demos and things
yeah,
like that.
give it
And don't
give
worry,
it
I think yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Don't worry about
and
it. So we'll get it
try
sorted
to
with
share
respect to
it
the
again.
video that we want to do, and we'll come up with the video as quick as possible. And I think there's a blog that is coming out on my LinkedIn as well, so stay tuned for that. We'll just come up with so many of the security practices and other things. So thank you so much, folks. We are ending the broadcast now. Cool.